Hello everyone, Helen here. How are you today? I hope you're okay. Welcome everybody. If you're new, you're very welcome indeed. And it's lovely to have all of my usual friends here to chat to as well about all sorts of things. This week it's my usual mishmash of all kinds of things. And so what have I got for you today? I've got a finished knitting project and a new knitting project, and I've got an update on my hand-sewn quilt that I've been making, and a couple of things that I've bought recently. I'm taking you on a visit to a yarn shop that I've never been to before, and I'm taking you on a little camper van trip, or some parts of it anyway, towards the end of today. So I think I better not do any waffling at all and get straight down to things. I think I'll update you on my quilt first. So I have been making some patchwork 9 squares, hand pieced 9 squares, and since I last spoke to you about it, I've made 3 more. So there they go, and there. And so that now means I've got I think 5 more 9 patches to go for the number that I need. And then I showed you last time the first square of the mouse pictures, the mouse embroidered pictures, and there's one for each month of the year, and I showed you the September one. Since I was starting it in September, I decided to start with September, although I'm not doing one a month. I'm just starting one when I finish, when I finish the last one. So I've actually been very busy with these because I've loved doing them so much, and I've done 4 more months since I last spoke to you. So the first one that you haven't seen properly, I think you saw the start of this one actually, and this is October. I chose the words, the very well-known words, season of mists and mellow fruitfulness. I just love those words. And yeah, when I showed you the first one, the September one, I wasn't sure whether to make it more of a cantha style, like the hair squares that I've made. And all of the good advice that I received was, no, just leave it the way it was. And that's what I've done. But I do want to, if I can, include some elements of that cantha style, the running stitch and things. And so I did do that to this one. I actually decided to fill the mouse with running stitches, and I think that's worked okay. I don't think it's too distracting or anything. It just fills him in a little bit. And I did a little bit of running stitch sort of to suggest where the ground is there, and I'm pleased with that. So I really don't want to do any kind of stitching next to the words at the top, or really where the month is. Then November. So here is November's square, and I chose an excerpt from a quote that I found: "The wild wind mourns the fading year." And you can see I decided to use like a dark grey thread, but I chose a lighter grey one for the word fading. That just seemed to be a nice thing to do. And again, I filled in the head and body and trousers of the little mouse. The thread that I used for actually writing November with is a bit funny. I don't know, maybe it's a silk thread. It was a bit different to all the others. I don't even know where it came from. And so it's not quite as crisp as the other threads that I've used, but that's fine. I'm okay with it. So yeah, so that's November. And then December was a little mouse cozy in bed, and I chose the words: "The time for comfort, for good food and warmth. I think that quote starts, winter is the time for comfort. And then the final one that I finished for the moment is the January one. And on the January template, it had the year 2025, but I've decided to change it to 2026, just because I think that's when I'm likely to have the quilt finished. I don't think I'll get it finished this year, by the end of this year. So that's what I've done there. So I've written, trust the magic of new beginnings. I like that. That's part of a longer quote that I've actually got in a print on my wall downstairs. But yeah, so that's a lovely little one. And I have just made a start on the February one. I haven't started sewing it yet, but I've traced it and everything, so it's all prepared. I'm doing the same thing with these squares as I did for the Cantha ones, just because when I did the Cantha kit, it gave you the cotton for the front, and then it said to have 2 layers of muslin behind, so that I can't remember, it was just to secure the stitches to make them hold a bit better. And so that's what I'm doing for all of these mouse squares as well. So, but I am thoroughly enjoying doing those. They're a bit addictive. I spent hours doing them. Yes, anyway, so that's those to one side, out of the way. Okay then, so knitting now. So you've seen half of this project complete. It is the mittens that I was knitting, and I told you last time I was chatting about knitting, I told you the sorry tale of the first mitten I attempted to do, which wasn't successful, but I now have a pair of mittens, hurrah! And I had no more problems with this. There was nothing wrong with the pattern whatsoever. It's called Along the Sea Strand Mittens, and I'll leave a link in the description box. And yeah, was a lovely pattern, pretty straightforward. It was just the user of the pattern that had a few problems, but I succeeded in the end. So there we go, a lovely pair of warm mittens, and every time I wear those I will think about my lovely holiday on the Isle of Iona in Scotland this summer, where I bought the wool. And so this wool came from the sheep on Iona, and I'm looking forward to being warm in cold weather. We haven't really had any cold weather yet, but there will be some, I expect. So that's those. I'm not going to talk about those too much at all today. And yes, I have got one other knitting project to show you. I'm just going to hold on that one for a moment. I'm going to show you a couple of things that I bought recently, because I just thought you might like to see them. And I decided one day, 2 or 3 weeks ago, that what I really needed was another pincushion. Well, I don't have loads of pincushions. I have one that looks like a cactus that I made myself, and that lives downstairs. And then my other main one really was this one. Oops. This one that I made. I think that this was I followed a tutorial from Emma Jones' Vintage Sewing Box to make this, and it's a lovely lovely little pincushion. But the thing that I was finding that was starting to annoy me a bit was that I needed 2 hands to take a pin out, because I had to hold this down and then take a pin out, because if you pick it up, the whole pincushion comes out, and yes, you can shake it for a bit. I don't want to have to do that. I just want to be able to pick the pin out without having to hold it with, with my other hand. So I started having a look at pin cushions that were available on Etsy, and well, I ended up buying 2. And actually, in the end, I'm quite glad I bought 2, because the first one that I chose, I absolutely love it, and it's this little dragon made of pewter, so it's really heavy. So I thought, oh, that'll be really good. That'll do the job, and I don't need a big pincushion. You can see it's pretty small. So lovely, but when I came to use it, not the best pincushion. First of all, this the place where you put the pins is very stiff, and so when you pick a pin up, it actually holds the whole weight of this pewter dragon, And the other thing that can happen is that the whole of the soft bit in the middle just comes out. It's not fixed in place. And I've actually tried gluing it in and the glue didn't work. So although I really love it, it's not really very practical. So I'm just going to have that as a lovely object because it's really not good. However, the other pincushion that I bought is very successful, and that's this one here. It's been made in a vintage Bunnikins Royal Doulton egg cup here, and I love these illustrations. They're really beautiful, and this one is just what I wanted. So you pick a pin out and the thing stays on the table, so you just get the pin out. So this is fixed in place and it's nice and soft. It's just perfect. So I really love that. So there we go, the tale of the pincushions. Okay, well, just before I show you my new knitting project, I'm going to take you to a yarn shop that I had not been to before, and a yarn shop that's actually in Durham. Now, it's been open for a year now, and I've only just found out about it. And that's really only because of being on Instagram and following Lucy Locketland, and she posted a picture that let me know that this yarn shop had opened in Durham. So of course I had to go along because we hadn't got, well, we've had a yarn shop in Durham before, but not for quite a while. And so I haven't really got a very handy one that I can just get the bus to. So I was very excited about this. So I finally went along. It was rather a rainy day, and it's a little bit off the beaten track because it's not in the main shopping streets in Durham. It's down by the riverside in a very old area called Fowler's Yard, and there's a few units there that have got yeah, I would say probably arty crafty kind of people in them mostly. And so I went and found this lovely yarn shop called A Wing and a Bear, and it's owned by a lovely lady called Jennifer and her husband, and I hope I've remembered correctly that he's called Jeremy. And in fact, I also met the shop manager, Nancy. Well, Nancy manages the shop. She's the loveliest little dog, and she was as good as gold. All the time I was there, she just stayed on this chair, looking very angelic, which I'm sure she is. Anyway, so I've made a little video of the shop. It is just a small shop, although upstairs it's got a room where there are workshops that are held there, and all relating, I think, really to natural fibres and spinning and weaving, and I don't know what else. I think there's going to be all sorts of things happening there, and hopefully I'll go along to a workshop at some point as well. So yeah, that'll be really nice. But anyway, I did a little video of the shop so that you could have an idea of what it's like, and I was trying to decide what kind of music I would put to the shop, and didn't really have anything that seemed just right. So I wrote something specially called The Old Fashioned Wool Shop, and I'll tell you why I called it that after I've shown you it. But I played the piece to Phil. That's my husband, if you knew. And so we listened to it, and he said, well, I don't really see what it's got to do with wool. So that wasn't really the point. It's meant to sound kind of old-fashioned rather than woolly. Don't know how you write a bit of woolly music. Anyway, let's go and have a look at A Wing and a Bear. Yes, so isn't that lovely? And of course, I just can't go in a yarn shop without buying something. And I did have something in mind that I wanted to buy because something else I'd seen on Instagram, and that was a sleeveless, like a waistcoat, and actually the one that they already had knitted up in the shop. It was just perfect. It was just what I wanted to make. So I bought the pattern here, and it's a West Yorkshire Spinners pattern, and so there it is. Hopefully you can see that, or I might show you a photo. Using this wool that I haven't used before, Retreat Twist, which is very lovely. It's what do you call that? What do you call it when the colours fade anyway? And I just think those autumnal colours are beautiful. So I did buy the wool to make this, and I've started it. Let's get it out here. Made a start on it, and in fact I have finished the back. So here is the back. So obviously it's a bit curly at the moment. I love the sleeve edgings. I think they look really nice. It's done in mock rib there. So anyway, so that is the back finished, and I've just made a start. The next thing you have to do are the pocket linings. Well, honestly, it's taken me ages to understand the pattern. My friend Sylvia and I looked at it for ages and ages, and we just couldn't work out how it worked to put the pockets in. And then I sent some photos to my mum, and she couldn't work it out either. She said, "Oh, there's something missing in the pattern." And well, actually, the thing that was missing from what I sent her, I missed out a part of the pattern I should have sent her, which did help it to make more sense. And eventually, it did just click. And so there's not a mistake in the pattern. It's just that maybe there could have just been a little sentence to help people like me who haven't knitted many clothes. Just to explain a bit about how the pockets worked, because I really didn't get it. Still, it's fine now. I understand it, and hopefully next time I speak to you, I'll have had a lot more of that done. Maybe even finished, never know. Or maybe not. Anyway, I said I was going to say why I called the piece of music that I wrote at the old-fashioned wool shop. That's because it was just what Jennifer said. She said, if you want, I can keep an extra ball of the yarn, in the same dye lot in case you need an extra ball, which was really kind. She said, like an old-fashioned yarn shop. So yeah, that's really nice. So it has got a lovely cozy feel, cozy friendly feel. So if you live in the Durham area, or or if you happen to be visiting Durham, then I do recommend you go along, and I'm sure you can find it on Google Maps or something like that, because it's that's the only thing. It's just slightly tricky to find, but worth it. Right then, I'm going to take you on a little camper van trip, or a bit of a one anyway. A couple of weeks ago was Phil's birthday, and we've been away in the camper van for my birthday the last 3 years, and he decided that he'd like to have a birthday treat of going away in the camper van. So we just went for an overnight trip to North Yorkshire, and we particularly wanted to go to a little village called Staithes, which we did manage to do. But first of all, I'm just going to take you across the North York moors to appreciate some beautiful English countryside. Yeah, so before we went to Staithes, we stopped off for lunch at a lovely little tea room in a place called Hinderwell, and it was in an old schoolhouse. And it was just so lovely. It gets used by the community as well as by visitors to the area. And we had a really lovely lunch. Phil enjoyed his pork pie, and I had something called Yorkshire rarebit, which is like a cheesy topping on toast. And I couldn't resist having some apple pie and custard as well while I was there. So I was quite full. I didn't really need much to eat later. So that was really nice. And then we just headed to the coast and parked in the main car park in Staithes. But the part of the village that we were visiting was the old part, which is right down a very steep hill and right down by the harbour. And it's absolutely beautiful there. I'm sure some of you watching will have been there before. But if you haven't, I'm going to take you there now. So come and enjoy the village of Staithes. Yeah, so we thoroughly enjoyed our time there. We'd never been before, and we're very glad that we've now visited there. And then it was kind of the end of the afternoon then, and we were planning to go for a pub meal later. before it got dark, we decided to go down to another little village by the coast called Skinningrove, just to kind of sit and relax for a bit and watch the sea. And we were absolutely mesmerised because all of the seagulls, I think they were mainly common gulls. I'm not sure if there were any herring gulls there. There were probably some other kinds of gulls. I'm not really very well up on seabirds. But anyway, there was absolutely hundreds of them just seeming to be having great fun in the waves. And it was where we had our binoculars and we couldn't see that they were particularly that they were feeding. They just seemed to be kind of, sitting on the waves and then all flying up and flying around together. And yeah, we just sat and watched them for ages. So I decided to video a bit of it and then composed a bit of music to go with it. And yeah, so I tried to get the feel of it just being mesmerising, really. I don't know, I suppose you could look at it and think it was a bit boring, but I don't know, I just loved watching the birds. So I'm sure some of you will enjoy watching the birds flying around as well. So let's watch that now. Righto then, that is where I'm going to finish today. So until I see you again, take great care of yourself and keep nice and busy. I'll be back again very soon. Okay then, bye.